Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It's a science place. It's a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Last episode before tour in my personal timeline. Glad to finally get this one in. I've been trying to work on this one for a bit, and nothing, the timeline never seemed to work out. But tonight's Norm Westberg, and I'm very excited to have Norm on. He's awesome, and we're going to be talking to him shortly, and it's long overdue. But before we do that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer that's been touring and recording for 24 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 377. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. And if you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around on the internet, and even just leave a review. All that helps people discover the show, beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's just a darn nice thing to do. So there you go. Episode 377. I'm working on this for a bit, actually. I think I might have brought this up in Pittsburgh when we played together. That was a while ago at this point. But this man is he's a busy guy. He's doing a lot of sets, a lot of shows, and I'm very pleased to have, I think, one of the great unsung post-punk, noisy rock, whatever you want to call it, guitarist, Mr. Norm Westberg. Welcome to the show, man.
Hi, nice to be here.
I was revisiting some stuff, and I think the Heroine Sheiks were wild underrated.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That was a great band. And we went out and did it, and yeah, it's a shame.
And I was talking to it with Shannon, I don't know, sometime back, and I almost kind of feel like it was either a little too early or a little too late. It's just wasn't quite the right time. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I feel that way. I have another band. LP is coming out on Secret Records called Anne, and it's from 95 and 96, live at CBGB's, and it's with Al Kizzies from Swans, and my friend Kelly Burns and Dan Joe Wright and Vinny Signorelli plays drums, and I just think it was the wrong time. Maybe we're too old playing that music. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, apparently that's a thing. That's a thing that people.
Yeah, I guess if we were 18 playing that music, it might have gotten popular. But
that's okay. Do you look like underwear models? Okay, then it's okay.
Yeah, that's right. It's still rock music, right? It's about how you look.
Exactly.
Partially.
I suppose so. No, but it's interesting that, I feel like it's Heroine Sheiks doesn't sound dated. You know what I mean? There's some bands around that time that sounds like the early 2000s or the late, almost said late 1900s.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Late 1990s. It doesn't sound dated to me. It sounds like, it's kind of freaky in a good way, as an adjective that I consider a compliment. And yeah, I don't know. Like it just seems like, it being, I remember at the time it was like, oh, it's the new Shannon Selberg thing. It's Shannon from the Cows and he has a new band. It's called Heroine Sheiks.
Right.
And of course,
but then Shannon found guys that are going to be themselves.
Right. It wasn't
and
like
not try to be the Cows.
Let's do Cows Part 2. It's let's do something different.
Right.
And when people find something they like, they want that artist to just do the thing I like. I want that thing. Tell me how. Might as well start with Heroine Sheiks. Tell me how you came into Heroine Sheiks, because you weren't at the very beginning, right?
Right. Well, no, they had never done a show, I don't think.
They were getting it together.
Shannon had moved to New York, and I knew this guy, George Porphyrius, the bass player. And I was like out of Swans for a while, and I wasn't really doing anything. And I decided I wanted to be serious again, go on tour and do stuff. I'm like, oh, I bet George has something going on. So I went to the bar where I knew he would be. And I said, George, what's going on? I want to do something. And he goes, oh, I got a band. Come on. And I went and I played with those guys.
Yeah.
I didn't really know much about the Cows. I saw them once. I didn't know what was going to happen. Just went in, made a bunch of noise, and it was cool.
Right, which is, that's a good place to start for bands. Yeah. Yeah, so you were familiar with their existence, but you didn't have like a good handle on like their whole
No,
thing,
it wasn't.
right?
I mean, not to say it's not you know what? I'm the guy, I don't listen to music I think would influence me too much.
I get that. No,
So
I totally
I'll
get that.
listen to like Delta Blues I was listening to, or show tunes.
Right.
Or Bollywood, anything that I'd sit there and go, oh, I can do that. I don't want that. I just want to do something. And if it happens to sound like somebody else, maybe it does. I try not to be, I might get too influenced by something other than Alice Cooper, which I am heavily influenced by.
Yeah, especially that classic run of, Love It to Death and $1 Billion Babies and Killer.
I was there. That was the stuff I got when it came out.
That had to be thrilling.
Yeah.
I unfortunately, growing up in California, I knew I was a little too young and knew nothing about it. And then I discovered like that the cheesy 80s stuff, and then kind of went backwards. And I was like, hey, wait, this early stuff is great.
Right.
But, like Dennis Dunaway and stuff. I mean, it's great. Yeah. It's a great band. No, but I think that's interesting of the like not really, if you're operating in a certain type of music, you wouldn't necessarily take influence from that, because then it becomes like like an Ouroboros, right? It's just feeding in and of itself, like a snake. And also, if it's something where those are the kind of bands you're playing with, they're gonna be hearing it a lot anyway. So why not listen to something different? Has that always been the case for you?
Kind of. No, it was mainly like that run of like indie bands that came out that I kind of avoided, because I listened to The Birthday Party. That was a huge thing for me. And
one of my favorites of all time.
Killing Joke and the Stooges and the Cramps and Public Image. Those were all the things I really liked. Right. And when I first heard Killing Joke, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh, that's how I want to play. And that's the kind of band I want to be in, audibly. Yeah,
and there's something about Killing Joke specifically. It's like true heads, I think, know, right? That like there was something kind of, it sounded kind of dangerous, like it was sort of like the guitar sounds were like in different ways than The Birthday Party did. The Birthday Party was like, no, here's actual danger. Like Nick Cave is going to kick you in the head because he's so spun out or whatever. And that's, it's interesting when you can put influence from like feelings into music. And, I think some people are really good at getting that across. But I did, like, for instance, first time I heard Swans, I was just like, oh, whoa, this is no joke. Like, this is just like no joke music, if that was a genre.
Right. Like, what is this?
Yeah, it was so daunting.
Or my reaction was, really? I can do that?
Right.
Really? Really? I don't have to do any rule? I
Yeah.
can just do whatever. Wow, that's amazing.
It was so like my first reaction. It was so like a wall. This is oppressive wall like coming at you that. And that my only frame of reference was Sonic Youth, and Sonic Youth is great, but it hit totally different, completely different.
Very different, yeah.
But yet, like aesthetically, like it made sense. Like, no, I could see these bands like finding common cause,
Right.
and doing stuff together. That makes sense. But there was something I had never heard anything like it. And again, like you say, that was something like did not realize that was an option. That was
Right. Yeah. Right. Really? Yeah.
So I do want to talk about Heroine Sheiks as well, but so we'll come back to Swans. But like when it came time to do stuff with Heroine Sheiks, when it came time to record, did that come together fairly easily at first?
Yes. The first thing we did was that single. That was with the original second drummer, Brian Bowden.
Right.
And that was just a 7-inch single at a small studio. And then when John Fell came into the band, he had a friend, Greg Gordon, who had more access to better studios.
Right.
So, and he was our engineer. I think he was the secret superstar of making those records sound good.
Yeah, and
Greg Gordon worked for Dave Sardi and
Mark
that whole
Market
crew.
Sure,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Super engineer.
Yeah, and that was was that was like a Rape on the Installment Plan kind of era.
Yes,
right? Like
that was the first one.
With Scott Hill on keyboards.
Yes, yeah. I think Shannon played some of them because he would write everything on keyboard.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that because they think of him, as like the performing monkey or whatever, which he is very good at. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, there's a musical mind there with that dude.
Yeah, he had that specific keyboard, some Casio, that they stopped making, so you'd have to buy one when he saw it and hope that it didn't break.
It was like well enough maintained that it was either the good kind of good or the good kind of wrong.
Somehow, I don't know. One time we were in the van and all of a sudden we heard this like creepy music going on, and it turned out that the keyboard had fallen off of the pile and turned on to one of the demo songs, and we're all like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" There's like a horror movie going on in the van.
Was it? That's great.
Because we were always in a van. Always in a van.
The presets, yeah, like that. It's hard to describe for people, especially around that era. It was like they had like, just we'll show you what the keyboard will do. It plays Camptown Races or something really like whatever, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or something. And of course, if the batteries start going, then it starts sounding even more like nightmare horror music.
This was more like a John Carpenter sound,
exactly.
While we're driving in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly when you want to hear that. Exactly. So you that's the So John Fell on drums, right? Scott on keyboards, George on bass. Shannon doing vocals and keyboards, and you on the guitar.
Well, mainly vocals and trumpet.
Bugle,
not trumpet,
I should say.
bugle.
Yeah.
And then at one point, Scott became such a showman. Shannon would play keyboards for one of the songs, and Scott would dance.
Right. Yeah, I think
saw that. So.
I think that was the era I saw. I think I'm trying to remember what show that was. It was a long
we
time
played
ago.
in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I saw it. I remember it was a good show. Let's put it that way. I don't remember when or where. So George leaves in like 2001 though, right?
Yes.
Before,
and by then Scott had already left.
Right.
And then our friend Eric Ebel came in and played keyboards.
Yep.
But he's really a bass player. So what he really wanted to do was play bass. So when George left, Eric moved over and we got another keyboard guy.
Yeah. And that's and then John Fell he's great, of course. He's got a storied musical history himself.
Yeah.
And that's something happened with his eardrums or something though, right? Like that was
Yes. He got an ear infection, I think, sleeping on the floor in some nasty hotel room at South by Southwest. Like we drove out to South by Southwest and then played some shows coming back. And it was, a rough one. Played Birmingham, Alabama to no one. No one.
Ooh.
And the bartender was so sorry for us. They said, "Oh, I got a friend. Let me call him up. Maybe you can stay with him." And it was one of the better crashes we ever had.
Right. It's
because the guy wasn't playing his demo tapes for us. He wasn't showing videos of his band rehearsing,
right.
all night. It was a nice crash. That was the high point.
You got to get a good night's sleep, and there you go. That was as good as it got, right?
Yeah, it was good. That part of it was pleasant, but nobody was there. Yeah, seriously, nobody. But I've seen shows like that too, where I'm the only one there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Great bands too.
Yeah, it has no connection to the quality of the music. Sometimes it's like a bad night. Sometimes people just don't know. Sometimes I was lucky enough to play a show in Minneapolis the night that the governor was like, "Hey, everybody, stay home." This is like, and we were already there
because that band is playing.
Yeah, exactly. They're no good. No, it was like literally when they made the COVID announcement. I was like, "Well, we're already here, so okay."
Were you on a tour or just okay? Mm-hmm. I was supposed to play a solo set with Human Impact, Chris Spencer's new band.
Yeah.
And COVID they just locked it down. I said, "Yeah, no, I can't do it."
Yeah. No, we ended up. It's funny when you think about it because it was like, we'll play a couple of these shows anyway. Maybe we won't do Seattle. And then as every day went on, I was like, oh no, we can't do this. We're gonna turn
any of it. Yeah.
But at the time for Minneapolis, like, we were already there. So it's like, well, I guess we're already here. So we basically played to Novacron and
the other bands.
The other band and Gay Witch Abortion and like three other people who just all were like, we're here too. I guess we're already here,
Yeah.
Against the wishes of the governor.
Wow.
But everyone was already there, so I was like, well, we're already here. Anyway, whatever. That has nothing to do with anything. Heroine Sheiks. Yeah, so you take off, right, 2003 or so, something along those lines, right?
Would I leave?
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know why I left. I think I had a decent job, and Heroine Sheiks wasn't doing anything.
Right.
Like we were touring, and it seemed like we reached a peak, and then we were starting to go downhill already. Hitting the same places 4 times, like Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like nothing was happening to me.
Yeah, and that's again a little bit too early, a little bit too late, right? I mean, sometimes that's how it goes. I think those records hold up, though. I think they're interesting records, and
then Shannon went on and made more. So
yep,
there was it kept going.
What there was the other play on Journey to the End of the Knife, right? Instead of
right,
was
yeah.
that one?
That was the one, and then at Farrakha, I think.
Right, that was the other reptilian one. Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's Heroine Sheiks, and I think it's interesting that band almost never gets discussed, and that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of focusing laser-like on it, because I think that those records are worthy of re-examination, and I think people should do that, and especially that there seems to.
Another point, John and when John got in, and I hadn't done it for years, was sleeping on floor tours.
Right.
You show up in the venue and you try to figure out where you're going to sleep that night.
Right. Announce it from the stage.
There's no money. We never quite did that, but right when we got there, we're hoping for somebody we know, and you try to be cool and go, yeah, would it be cool if, we kind of need a place to stay. And John was skeptical of that whole concept, as I guess I was as well, but I figured it would work out, and it did work out. I mean, but it's tough.
There's like
And you're sleeping in the van sometimes, and because nobody's still at that point, there's no money. Nobody has any money, really.
Yeah.
You don't have enough money to just say, yes, I'm getting a hotel for everybody. So you get the one room and people are sleeping on the floor, and you still have guys sleeping in the van.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's your treat. That's your treat for, we did okay.
Yeah. We made $100 tonight.
Yeah. We don't
And
have
we got some free beer.
Yeah. And that is absolutely a young man's game. I mean, that's and even then, like, you look back and like, wow, why did we do that? But, it seemed like it was saving money. But yeah, there's the whole thing of, there's the fight math of you want to stay with someone who has their act together. But if it's two together, then it may not be someplace that, you'd be welcome at. And then you mostly end up at places that are like, hazmat area. Great, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, we had some really cool crashes, or just, in retrospect, it's all hilarious. I mean, that first European Swans tour, I don't know how many cat pee stained mattresses in a giant room we slept in.
Right. They're all the same.
That's the way it was. That first European Swans tour with Harry and Rolly, there were no hotels. We slept on floors.
And it's so funny because people think of like these classic tours, like with these great lineups, right? And it's like, sure, the music was great. The music is always great. However, there's other aspects
you got,
to it. It's a person.
Yeah, you got these 3 metal bands all in one bus.
Yeah.
So you can understand how pleasant that must have been, too. Yeah. You got to be that age to even put up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. And that's at the best of times, right? And that's when everybody's like getting along. So like, Lord help you if everybody should, react like that.
There was never any really major problems. I found. I heard about some, and I would just be like, wow, that must have sucked. But it's never really been that big. Although I have a couple times told somebody in the band, it's like, well, if that guy goes on tour, I'm not going.
Right.
I can't do it with that person. And then they get rid of that person generally.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
because you've got to get along. If you're all going to be sitting in that van together, you've got to have a kind of common idea of how to get along with people.
Everybody has to be aligned and to the same goal.
Yeah,
right.
Kind of on similar. Even though in Heroine Sheiks, it was like John and I are very military minded about how things work.
Yeah.
Whereas George, as you can imagine, was not very. He accused us of being, too military minded about it.
Right.
You just got to relax. It's like, man, we got to get to where we're going.
Yeah, we're not here to relax, dude. Yeah.
Well,
so take it back. So let's start. Let's start with Filth, right? Let's start in there, and you coming in with Swans. Were you familiar with what was cooking at those really, really early on?
Well, that was weird because I knew Swans had that initial EP, and I was playing with Ivan Nam at Carnival Crash, and we did some gigs, and we played a party at Harry Crosby was the doorman. It was this building he lived at.
Right.
So I knew Harry, kind of. I met him that night, and then I knew we all hung out at the same bar. And one day I went into the bar and I asked about Harry, and they said he was on tour. And I didn't know you could go on tour. I'm like, you got to be kidding. That guy's on tour? And then he came back and he said, oh, you should come and, audition for this band on the Swans.
Yeah.
Like, oh. So Ivan had the record, and I listened to it. And if you know what that first EP sounds like, it's almost like free jazz in a way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. I think I can do this. But then I showed up, it was something completely different.
Right. And it seems to me that, as cool as that first one is, like, it kind of seemed like there was there was something that kind of quickly percolated together with that Filth
That
lineup.
EP.
Yeah.
Or Filth.
Like like that era, there was some pretty, not anything. Nothing was like soft-footed forward necessarily, but
Right.
it got ferocious pretty quick.
Because I had never seen like the previous band with Jonathan and Michael. I never saw Circus Board.
Oh,
And
really?
I know
Okay.
Swans had done a couple shows that they told me about that sounded like a nightmare, honestly. But a lot of the Swan shows were nightmares when they were happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had only heard about them. I had never seen them.
That's interesting. So all you had to go on was just what you were hearing, right? Which is
Just that EP. And then
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
showed up, it wasn't that at all.
it was something totally different.
Completely like, oh, you just play low, as loud as you can, and you
Yeah.
follow the drums.
Well, and you had that
It's
like
like,
sort
wow.
of, yeah. There's like really sustained kind of real just grindy, brutal guitar sound
Yeah.
on there.
And they were saying that, oh, well, what Sue would do is she'd play low and then play really high because Swans was broken up into two parts. There'd be the intro part and then the second part.
Yeah.
And that would basically be it. So a lot of times, or you slide up, you make sound effects, which I
Yeah.
like making sound effects.
And
And then I got into like doing different tuning to make it just more of a mess until Al joined, and then I had to straighten my shit up.
What was the what were some of your favorite tunings back then?
Well, I only did the one tuning. I would drop the E to a D sharp,
Mm-hmm.
and I would tune the G to a G sharp, so that when I hit the harmonic, it was just this horrendous noise. It didn't sound right.
Right. Totally wrong sounding. Sure.
Yeah. And any chord I played would be wrong too.
Right.
So everything I played was basically kind of wrong at the point, which was great because I could do whatever.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. As long as I played the same thing every time.
As long as it's consistent, then it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when Al joined, Al actually knew how to play.
Right.
So I had to start, minding my P's and Q's as far as playing in tune.
Right.
Which was interesting, which is nice. I mean, it was really, different stuff came out of that.
Well, it was a change too, because you can only go for that
Yeah.
just like grating viciousness.
Right. Michael wanted to move more towards musical types of stuff too.
Right. Slower tempos.
Rather than just that. Well, and also just more musical.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And melodic in some ways, if you want to call it. I mean, Children of God, there's a lot of melody going on.
Sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to kind of chart that progression because again, I always talk on this show about like the frame of reference for like modern audiences, like stuff that seems like normalized now. It's like, oh no, that wasn't in any way, shape, or form.
I know, right? Yeah.
Anything happening.
Yeah.
And
I used to see DNA a lot. You ever see DNA?
DNA. Oh man, I came to them way too late. But I listened to what there is to listen to, and it seemed pretty darn cool. I was like,
yeah, I saw them a couple times and just went, wow.
Yeah.
What on earth is happening? Just like you were saying before, it's like, Jesus.
Yeah. That WTF kind of like, I can't believe what is happening. I don't quite know what's happening at the same time.
But it's so cool.
But I like it, whatever
I
it is.
love both of the shows I saw.
Yeah. And I feel like there was a lot of cool bands kind of doing their own thing around that time, especially in New York.
Right.
And like, I think of like, what Lydia was up to. What happened to Eight-Eyed Spy at that time, where that would have still been in.
Never saw Eight-Eyed Spy.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who would.
A little bit, I think even a little bit before my concert going in New York. I moved to New York in 1980.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's, I think that's like, according to the internet, 1981, Eight-Eyed Spy. Okay, there you go. So.
Okay. So they were happening.
It was happening, but yeah, Teenage Jesus I know was before that.
Right.
So, but anyway, there was a lot of, if not like-minded noise making, then there was people kind of searching for cool sounds around that same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And not even just in New York. I mean, I think that it's kind of be disingenuous to not mention Neubauten, right? I mean, they were
Right.
They were getting into some serious nonsense in a good way at that same time as well.
Once again, kind of unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. And so was it easy to kind of find your people early on in those early days of Swans?
It's very strange. I think you do find your people somehow. Even as an older person, you kind of know right off if they're your people or not. I don't know what that is. Tribalism of some sort, right? But I always felt I met the right people and we got along. If they were the right people, you get along.
Yeah.
And it's luck, playing music is about luck too, and being ready for when you have that shot, let's say.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of artistic change that comes too, and new people come in, people drop out, right? I mean, that's always going to happen. People come back, and that's
right.
Nothing wrong with that. What was your first impression when Jarboe came in? Because I've had her on the show, and she was a delight. It was great. It was a great talk. But what was your first impression like when she first came into the picture?
I don't know. I don't know if I was so involved with myself that I kind of X myself out of anybody else's world, which is possible. I didn't have any real problem with it. It's like, oh, this will be great. Yeah. Instead of having some clunky guy with tapes, now we have somebody who's actually playing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'll be fine. I think I just rolled with it. I think I'm one of those guys, I roll with it.
As like a general ethos.
Until I don't, yeah. And then generally it's like then it's done. So I go along, and then at some point I don't go along.
Right. So yeah, I think it's something that like when did you think that, if you thought at all, that Swans was sort of...
I try not to a lot of times.
Like, I feel like there's a moment, hopefully, with bands, and it may come at different times, that like the band knows you're onto something special, and the crowd maybe hasn't figured it out yet.
See, I thought that about the Filth era Swans.
Yeah.
Like doing that last show in London on that tour, opening for the fall, and the audience just hating us. But it's us four against the Fall's audience. It was a magic moment when we came out there and just saw the looks on their faces. They were having none of us.
It's like Bonded in Blood moments, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, they were stuck there too. It was at that gay S&M club, Heaven. And I guess we were friends with the Fall somehow. Well, and we opened for them.
You would think a Fall audience would be a little open-minded, but I mean, like, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, but wow, did they hate us?
That's really, because
like they want the Fall in Detroit. I mean,
yeah,
Conan, your band goes and opens for some local Detroit band.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Good luck, I tell you.
What I always say is, just remember, everybody, we're in the way of everyone's favorite band. That's it.
Yes.
Treat it accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you walk in with that attitude, you're going to do just fine. Like, because it's
One of my favorite Detroit shows was Ian Dury opening for Lou Reed, and they were trying to boo Ian Dury off the stage.
Right.
And they really could not do it.
Couldn't do it.
He just was loving it. And they were great. That was really a good show.
That can be like kindling on the fire in the right situation, right?
Yeah, because he's from that world, I think.
Yeah.
That band at that point in the 70s, they've had everything thrown at them.
And it's interesting to me, like you mentioned with Heroine Sheiks having kind of like almost like a militaristic attitude about doing it.
Well, John and me.
Right.
I mean,
But some of you having that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that, and again, most of the stuff that I know about this era is anecdotal, but it kind of seems like you almost kind of have to generate that mindset to do that work, to make that music when you're in situations like that. Like you have to be like, okay.
And to actually show up at a gig.
Right.
Yes. Because there's a lot of bands that I've heard that, oh yeah, they didn't show up because, they were partying.
Right.
And what's more important than partying to some people?
Yeah, it's the music is a delivery system for the partying for some folks.
That's right. Where I've always thought the opposite. Really.
I completely agree with you.
Play the music. I mean, that's why I'm out there.
I think that it's interesting how stuff gets taken later too. Like I think without a cop, you don't have like a Neurosis. Or like an ISIS or something along those lines. Like,
So I've heard, but I don't know because I don't listen.
They're good. I've had Von Till on the show. Yeah. Like he shot.
I've met them. We played a festival somewhere and Neurosis was playing and I hung out and talked to them and they're super nice guys.
And they're sweethearts as dudes just have had many epochs of music, some of which are more popular than others, and like, very true to themselves in that way. And I think a lot of it can also just be not sound, but just ethos and mindset too.
Right. Yeah.
But cops, that's an interesting one because, people call that industrial, right? Some people call it noise rock. Like what did you think about at the time? Because it's like 84, right?
I never thought it was noisy. I always thought it was just blues. Honestly, like sitting there listening to Filth playing, I'm like, oh, listen to this. It's just blues music.
Yeah.
Really, if you run it down, it is.
It just happened to be with maximum volume and intensity.
And, it's simple, theoretically simple, on the surface, and it's just from a different kind of field. It's the city. And this New York City in 1983 was a lot different than it is now.
Right. Yeah, it turned into Disneyland at one point, by compare and contrast. Did you ever have a thought to the volume as a younger man? Like as far as, no one was thinking too hard about permanent ear damage or anything along those lines. But
no, because I always listened to loud music. I went to loud rock concerts.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, this is great because volume feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's the best.
And then if you have really nice friends, you end up with these things.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's I feel like that was like a little ahead of its Swans at that time, where it was like a little bit ahead of the game as far as that goes, because we
used big amps and we weren't playing metal,
right?
So you'd have, Sonic Youth, I think, loved playing gigs with us because they would use our gear. So
right, it's right there.
Fantastic. We're guaranteed to have great loud stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than a little combo amp that they might drag around.
Right, and that's going to build up your core too when you're lifting these heavy cabinets and.
Well, yeah, moving gear. Those thing of the past, thankfully. Yeah,
that's it's a lifestyle decision to be sure. But I like that idea of like Sonic Youth, just like, oh great, or like gonna sound awesome to your stuff.
Yeah, we'll open for Swans. Yeah, don't even bother moving your gear. We'll just plug into it.
Right. Yeah, we'll just we'll just use yours.
I wrote, like that little private chat only goes to you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then the comments you have to sign in.
You do
write in, or is anybody writing in?
People can do comments if they feel so inclined. I will say, at the time of this recording, I did not get the chance to promote the live. Most people listen on the podcast by like a factor of 5,000. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's an on-demand world. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's sometimes we'll get some good ones though. Every once in a while, you know.
Right.
It's so I kind of find it a distraction unless it's really funny or really insightful.
Right.
Which is the right kind of distraction. Tell me about the Young God EP.
Raping a Slave,
Raping a Slave, yeah. And,
Young God.
yeah.
That was done on the first tour. It was partially, like Cop was partially recorded at Vanguard Studios in New York. And we brought the tapes over to Europe with us and recorded in Switzerland. I think Bern Basel there. Rolly was from Zurich, and he hooked up a studio there. And we went in and recorded that Raping a Slave EP and added to finished up the Cop record. You listen to Cop, you can, like, I can tell what
Which
was
ones were
recorded in New York and which was done in Switzerland.
Absolutely. No, it's very different sounding. I mean, not in a bad way. Not that one's like superior to the other.
Right.
It's just different sounding rooms, basically.
Yeah.
More or less. Different people at the helms. Yeah. So that one, that one for especially for an EP. I know Justin Broderick shouted that one out.
Right.
Which I'm a fan of what that dude does. I've actually been dancing with him longer than I have with you for getting him on the show, but eventually we're going to. Yeah, we've talked about it. We have an email chain that goes back 4 years. Anyway.
Wow.
But, yeah, this is Norm. Sometimes the crack show when it's just one guy doing everything. That's all I'm going to say.
It's a time thing. You do always record on Monday.
No, Monday's the overflow day. Usually I do Thursdays. And okay. Monday's like the overflow day, but then it's also like right now it's just papers in the air, like whatever.
Yep.
Like that's neither here nor there though. So how do you feel about that? About that second EP? How do you feel about that? Do you think that was a good representation of where the band was then?
Yes, it was. It was what we were playing at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that's all the dollar sign stuff.
Right. Yeah. No,
and that's when the recording the dollar sign stuff is when Harry kind of drifted away because Michael decided not to play bass anymore and was putting too much pressure on Harry to play not what Harry did, which was one chord and he would do the stabs. And he didn't want to play bass. He didn't want to play bass. So that's when Al came in because we knew Al because they had just moved in from Chicago. Bag People had moved in. And we were friends with them. I think we played a couple gigs at the Sin Club with them.
Nice.
So we knew Al, and immediately it was like, oh, yeah, we're all the group here.
Right.
Immediate friendship.
And that seemed, because it seemed like that was a pretty good, easy vibe from an early perspective. And of course, as we mentioned, the money one, that's the first one, Jarboe too, right? If I remember correctly.
Right. Yes.
It's been a couple of years since we talked about it, but and then what? The Screw EP is after that, right? That's
yeah. And it's Greed and Holy Money.
Right.
And out of all those records, I think Al and Ted played just a moment on one of the songs. Like they're in there featured, but they had just kind of joined.
Right.
And weren't in on the whole recording of that.
Yeah. So was that something where just the band was just going somewhere different at the time or just wasn't?
Yeah, it was going all over the place. I mean, I remember we rehearsed with Harry, like at the end before we went in to record the stuff.
Yeah.
And it was completely different stuff than we recorded. It was really moving into a weird direction. And I think Michael was trying to feel out what was going to happen.
Yeah.
We were having drummer issues. I got a couple drummers in. My friend Ivan came in and played drums. And another friend that I played with, Ron Gonzalez, played drums on those records, and Ron Gonzalez, a super musician, like super guitar player, like jazz kind of guy, and learned how to play drums. And he played drums on that tour with Ted, the first tour, pre-Children of God. We did a big tour for the Dollar Sign Records with the two drummers.
Yeah, and how it's so that opens up like possibility and like danger, both at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Was that like an easy? I mean, I guess stuff was loud enough, right? That like two drummers is going to be fun.
Yeah, we were super loud. Those were super loud gigs, and the tour after that with just Ted was really loud as well. The two drummers, that was really massive. And it was fine. We got along. There were some issues sometimes, but mainly that's because, there's no money.
Right.
So, scrapping.
So around Children of God, that's also when when the Skin record was happening as well.
That was recorded right after Cornwall.
Okay, so what was so it was after? So that was the timeline. Is that one was after?
Same time, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same rough area.
No, not even rough. Like right at the same time.
Actually at the same time. Oh, okay, cool.
Not at the same studio, but immediately after.
Very nice. Okay, so and that is. It seems like that's a very, very powerful creative time for the whole outfit.
Michael,
yeah. How did you? What was the temperature of the band at the time? Like, what was the situation? How would you feel? What was going on? Did you feel like he was spreading himself too thin, or did it matter? Like, what was?
I don't think it mattered.
Yeah.
No.
He was a pretty driven dude. So.
Yeah, and he wanted to make different kind of music, but he still wanted to make the big heavy music too.
Right, and that's I mean, I think that Children of God seems to be, it's a mission statement,
right,
of sorts, because there was the physical assault era,
right,
if you will.
And the shows were great then too. They were big.
So what did you? So that was like what? That was like 87 or so, right?
You tell me. I'm not good at timelines like that.
I think that's about right. And it's been a while. I saw all this in the documentary whenever that came out some years back.
Right.
But that was whatever. I couldn't tell you what happened last week, Norm. I don't know. But how did you feel like the musical landscape at that time was? Like, had folks kind of like caught up at all to what Swans were doing?
Well, in Europe, at least, mainly, and in major cities in the U.S., like New York, L.A., San Francisco.
Yeah.
It was fine, but everywhere in between was not fine.
Was it like, leave towns being expelled like a virus, or was it more
or just nobody showing up?
Just nobody.
Like in Florida. Like, oh, yeah, this is why you don't go to Florida.
Right.
Oh, we just had to remind ourselves, I guess. Oh, yeah, okay.
With kind of exploring the more like acoustics and kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, like more conventional song structures and stuff like that. Was that something that was just like, it felt like, oh, let's try this? Or was it more like we're free of the constraints of doing...
I don't know. That's more of a Michael question. I'm not that involved in that side of it. And once again, it's like, okay, fine, let's make this work. Like, I liked the Burning World. I thought that tour was really good, very dynamic. Like, talk about going loud to quiet. I mean, that tour had dynamics.
And that's something, again, I wasn't aware of until I saw the documentary. That I was like, oh, it's interesting. That's sort of like the big... like an inflection point almost, where both sides of that act is represented well. You have that doom wave, like the tidal wave, and then you also have the more, I guess for lack of a better term, like conventional but like not deafening stuff going on
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
Did you feel that? Did you feel like that got over to the audiences, or
It kind of, well, yeah, I think so. In some audiences, once
Yeah.
again,
it depends on the
yeah, I
audience?
think it was a little more, you know, it was easier to deal with for the audience.
Yeah, and
You know, it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of like regular music.
right. Well, because there was that, the Joy Division reinterpretation, right? Which
Yes,
is,
yeah.
That's
And that
sort
went
of like
over great in New York and in Manchester. It went over amazingly well.
yeah. I mean, it's a good cover. Like, it's a band that's very hard for people to cover well because it's. There's such a that band was such a vibe and energy band that, like, I think a lot of times
Right.
like, oh, you're doing the thing, right? Okay, it's like karaoke, great.
Yeah.
But not in that case. Not in that case at all. So guitar wise, when you were like in this era, were you kind of like actively trying to do different stuff, or was it just like, whatever is coming through the gates at that moment in time, that's what you're focused on?
I was still trying to do different stuff. Maybe getting a little more fiddly.
Right. And when do the effects start coming in?
Right around, The Burning World.
Because it kind of seems like that one just had a bit of a, not that it's like psychedelia or anything,
Right.
or anything,
I
but
would
like,
try like reverb occasionally,
yeah,
but I would never have like a decent reverb pedal. And they didn't really make good stomp
they
reverbs
were
then.
around for a long time. Like, I feel like now there are, but I feel like back then there
Yes.
was.
Yeah, there's great pedals now, but there were never really a lot of pedals going on. But then I got the 88 rack system, so I could do all sorts of presets. So every song I had like 5 different presets I would step through
Yeah.
with different amp sounds. And I don't even know if it makes a difference, honestly.
It makes difference to like
Yeah.
pedal nerds, like for people that
Yeah,
are,
but it's just an amp. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
For tone chasers, it makes a huge difference, but maybe for the
Yeah.
rest of the world, maybe less so. Were you a big Blind Faith fan?
No. No. I think Al's the one that came up with that song. He goes, wow, this is such a great song.
Yeah.
And then, learned it and played it. I mean, it is a nice song.
Yeah, it's good. I Blind Faith, I can kind of take or leave, but like I think that's a good cover.
Yeah.
What unexpected, nothing wrong with that. Nothing
Was
wrong with
it?
that.
Oh, I don't even know. It just all seems to happen to me.
Yeah. Do you find yourself at this point working on stuff on your own at all in that sort of like late 80s Burning World like era? Is that still in the future?
It's still, I'm not doing any kind of solo. I'm not thinking of just standing there playing guitar.
Sure.
Still probably playing with Al. Even after Al leaves, I'm still playing with him. We've always had one band or another going.
Yeah.
Until recently, when nobody lives in New York. Well, Al and I do, except we just don't have a lot of time to dedicate to playing. And now our drummer, Vinny, doesn't live really in New York anymore. So
Where is he living now?
he's splits his time, Mexico and Italy.
Really? I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I've had Spencer on before, and Alexander from Neubauten, and
Right.
he's come up, and every time I'm like, oh yeah, I should have Vinny on sometime, but I don't know like how to get a hold of him. I don't know where he is.
Oh, I can give you a contact.
I would love that. Thank you.
Oh, look, somebody made a comment, but I don't think I can see it. Oh, yeah, I can see it. Peter's son. I bought Greed Holy Money when it came out. Was a long, long time ago. I know that. Thank you, Peter.
Awesome. That's great. So that's like a 86 or something, I think, right? Yeah, that's yeah, 86.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think Tool Dude, I think like shouted that one out on like some interview or something along those lines. That's one if I remember correctly.
Maynard? Is that the Tool guy?
Tool, yeah, aka Tool Dude. Yeah, I couldn't
Right.
think of his name. Sorry.
Right.
Very nice gentleman, but
Okay.
So Swans entering 90s, right? I just had on Steve Turner of Mudhoney. Was the last one I had on. Of course, they were right there.
I think by 90, I'm gone, right? 89, I think, is right after The Burning World. And then I'm gone. I came in, I played a song on the next record. And
that
then
was it.
It was a few years until The Great Annihilator, where we kind of all got back together again.
Which I want to get to, but I want to talk about that sort of what I call kind of like a gold rush period for like weird music, which is that night, like that 91. What was your take on that at the time? Like, were you listening to music at all? Were you kind of like working on like the next
Like
thing?
who?
I mean, that Nirvana
Like
record.
what
was
bands
pretty-
are you talking about?
like Nirvana
Nirvana,
and like
yeah.
all that? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know what? We did a couple of fetus tours, like Alan, Vinny, and I, and Ted. And Jim would always play this music. Like, I loved Union Carbide Productions. That first record, In the Air Tonight,
I don't
Jim
know if I'm familiar
played
with it.
us a song from that, Ring My Bell, which is just unbelievable. It's Stooges. It's straight up Funhouse from Swedish guys.
That sounds
Union
great.
Carbide.
I'm
You
not
have to
familiar.
hear that first record, In the Air Tonight, I think it's called, or something like that.
All right,
But I
Make it
was, Nirvana. It was cool. I didn't really pay that much. I might have just been discovering the Smiths or some idiotic thing like that. You know?
That's true. No, what I'm just saying, like it was, everyone has a different kind of path through things,
Right.
And it's just an interesting time where it seems like for a couple minutes, a couple very short time periods, they kind of let the freaks in a little bit,
Right.
for like before the major labels, like, oh no, we know how to like guard against.
Oh, you
this
mean
now.
like pre-packaging of grunge and signing everybody?
Correct.
I probably went and saw a lot of shows. I think like the whole metal scene started coming back up too. Like the stoner rock stuff kind of thing.
Sure.
Was kind of happening. And I'd go to CBGBs and see those bands.
Yeah, were you kind of digging on any of that stuff, or was it just sort of like, oh, I guess this is happening now?
I like Spirit Caravan. I guess if that's that time
yeah.
period. Wino's band, I really like them. Like how do I even say it? It's like, oh yeah, this is great, but so what in a way? In some way it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily something you have to feel like common cause for or anything, but just it is a moment, a flashpoint in history, if you will, and it is kind of notable in that way. So tell me how The Great Annihilator comes out, because you're out for Swans, like it's like
I'm out and Al is out, everybody's out, and then I don't know what happened. Michael just contacted us and said, "Oh, I want to do this record." We went to Martin Beese's and recorded some stuff with Al and Ted and I.
Yeah.
And then went to Chicago. Al arranged a studio in Chicago, and we went there and recorded. And then it kind of took Michael, 2 years to finish it?
It was pretty.
There's no money. Michael's paying for everything.
Right.
So he's wheeling and dealing, trying to, it's his vision, That was a fun record to record, though. This meeting Bill Rieflin was huge. I mean, he was a fascinating guy. Great drummer, lovely guy, too. Very curious person.
I appreciated the documentary, the King Crimson documentary that they came out.
Oh, I've never seen that.
It's good. Actually, I think I don't know if it's even available to stream anywhere, but I enjoyed it, and I didn't quite know what to expect, because that that could be a
Right.
number of things. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I found it very interesting and
Does it go through history?
a little
Or
bit.
is it more about King Crimson with the 4 drummers?
It's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and it's a lot about
Okay.
it's a lot about the guitarist, of course, as you might imagine,
Yeah.
and just like the world around him, and so Bill
Yeah.
features like he's in there kind of as like the heart of it almost,
Well,
but
he was the lead drummer, I think.
right, but the time that most of the footage is from like 2013 to
Right.
Patel's death.
Oh, and you
so-
also know Bill did the crafty guitar player thing too.
I forgot all about that.
Bill
yeah.
was a multi-instrumentalist, really. He
What a great-
played frippy guitar, which I'm honestly not a huge fan of, but I like some of it.
like the loopy, effecty kind of stuff. That's
Yeah, I don't need it.
fair enough. Fair enough.
I
mean,
love that 20th century schizoid man. I love that. I love the guitar and the drums and the vocals. Everything is awesome on that song. But then I keep playing the record and go, oh, yeesh, I'm out. It's not giving me what I want.
right. I think for me and my taste, I think Crimson. Like there's a few songs like I think there's like 3 like really amazing songs on Discipline. Discipline's great.
I like that era. I went to go see them
Yeah.
because I was a Baloo fan, kind of.
Yeah.
From the Bowie stuff and the Talking Heads stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And Bruford was playing, and it was awesome. It was a nice show on the pier
Yeah.
in New York.
And I feel like even when like it's Crimson I don't like, it's like good for them, man. Good for
Right. Good for them.
and
I'll
that's
just
about
kind of
where
pat
I'm
him on the head.
Yeah, hey, looks like you're having a great time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't go to their church. You know what I mean? But
I
like,
watched Premier Guitars
yeah.
website. I watched the rig rundowns.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the one about Fripp's setup there's some you're a guitar player. You should watch that and you'll just go, I give up. Where's just like, this is just so ridiculous.
It seems like he would need a whole engineering team to maintain it, is what it feels like.
It's amazing. The tech is the guy talking about it. And
Right.
it's just like, well, does the tech know better? I don't think so. I think Robert Fripp
No,
knows.
I think
like all ends of it.
that
And
man
then
is the
he
architect.
teaches the tech.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
it's pretty insane. But a lot of those rig rundowns, like the modern guitar player it's Nashville kind of thing.
Mhm, mhm.
It's just way beyond my thinking.
And it's with the technological advancements in gear and stuff. There's a whole
It's insane.
yeah.
But a
there's-
lot of them still, they still like it's about, like they have this old school stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, but then I have all this computer shit over here.
Right.
And it's like, well, what's with the computer? Come on.
Well, I still remember when it's like when they made a convincing Echoplex as a pedal that actually like sounds
right.
good, where it's like, oh my God, because that's something I was like, they're never going to get it. They'll never get it. And then it's like, oh, they got it. Great. Because those things are a pain in the ass, but they're great.
Right.
They're
Right.
always breaking. If
Yeah.
you want it to sound consistent, forget about it. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay, having nothing to do with like literally any of that. So is it just like a continuation, right? Is it just like a continuation from what you guys
The
did
Great
before?
Annihilator?
For the Annihilator, yeah.
You know what? Not really for me. I
Okay.
made the decision. I'm doing exactly what Michael wants me to do
Got it.
because
So
he wrote all the parts, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing these. I'm saying yes,
right.
and I threw in a little bit of my own thing, which I do, but I made a real conscious, like, okay, I'm playing what he wants.
You're kind of taking you're taking any ego out of it, and you're being
Yeah, like reverting, like if he's asking me to, oh, what would you do here? Do something, and then we work on it.
Yeah.
You know, we work on it in tandem, but I think most of those songs he wrote on guitar. And it wasn't like, you know, a rudimentary bass line like it was in the old days, where you play something on top of it that could very possibly have nothing to do whatsoever with what he was playing.
Right.
By the Great Annihilator, he's actually writing. You know, he's doing all these wacky tunings, and it's
more composed.
I would take his funny tunings and figure them out on a standard tuning, which I could do and make it sound good.
So that's interesting to me because, like, I feel like there's almost always it's a translation, right? It's a translation of some kind, and you're going to be in a situation where the musicality is going to be different because there's something like just how things chime and how things resonate, stuff like that. It's always going to be a little bit different, right?
But it was fun recording that in a big church room, basically.
Yeah. That
like
looks
a
amazing.
big open studio with every amp we had all plugged in together with me standing there. So that was fun. Like for the big parts. That was really fun.
I mean, it's never not going to be satisfying, right? That's always going to be
that's true. Yeah.
pretty good.
I don't want to move all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It was already there, and you know, let's plug it all in.
Well, and why not? Yeah, especially when if you're like making like a work of art, right? Then it's like, okay, well then let's make a work of art here, you know.
Because at that point in Chicago, we didn't play together. It was all like overdub stuff. Whereas in New York, Al and Ted and I played together. So we were doing dynamics, which is mixed immediately.
Yeah, and you get a different feel from band in a room from and making layers, right? And it comes across as different, not always, but it comes across as different recorded.
Yes, yeah.
How do you feel about that one? How do you feel about Annihilator?
That record?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like that record. I liked it when it came out.
Yeah.
I liked the stuff we played. I wasn't a big fan of some of the added stuff, you know, that filled out the record.
Yeah.
I didn't think, you know, I have a short attention span.
It's a long record, man.
I like a nice short 30 minutes. I'm good for about 30 minutes. I start drifting.
Well, and that's around that era, the CD era especially. I feel like records got really long for a while.
You got to fill up all that 76 minutes, right?
Exactly.
Like, why?
Why don't you just leave them wanting more? Oh, no. We got to fill it all up as much as we can. No, it's okay to leave them wanting more, man.
Yeah. I think that was System of a Down did that, those two records, where they said, that was the line. It's like, look, we're going to do these two records so that people can actually concentrate.
Yeah.
You know, it's short. Two short records rather than one long one.
I feel like it's happened with movies too. Like movies have like now are in the like 3 hours is normal. When it's like, well, but could you maybe tell that story in 90 minutes though? Because that would be cool. I'd watch that.
Probably, yeah.
It's a wild idea, I know, but it's an idea whose time has come. Okay, so so at one point do Heroine Sheiks come in? We mentioned that at the beginning, kind of going non-sequentially, right?
That's like the late 90s.
And what am I missing in between here? What are you up to between those?
Playing with Al. We're doing a lot of shows.
Sure.
We're doing Anne. We did a band called Twig with this guy John Barry as the singer, and Ted was the drummer for some of that, and Jason Wolford played, keyboards on that stuff.
Nice.
And we played a lot of shows, just all in New York, never going on tour, never went out of town, just playing in the city and rehearsing all the time, because that's what you did. You rehearsed 4 days a week or whatever.
Right.
Didn't even question why. It's just that's what you did.
Just what you did, yeah. And did you ever get at the point be like, hey, maybe I'm done running around doing this tour?
Oh yeah, every time at the end of any band, it's like, okay, that's it. I don't think I need to do this anymore. But then next thing you know, you meet some people or something sparks your like creativity, and you go, wow, get all excited again and you want to go do it.
Yeah, and you want to bring it to the people, right? Because maybe there's going to be people they're going to be exposed to, and they're going to dig it, and it's exciting to do that.
Yeah, that's like, well, yeah, but you got to be excited about it yourself.
That helps.
Or nobody's going to buy it. Right. I mean, I make the music for myself. If I like it, then maybe somebody else will like it.
So, jumping around a little bit, I love the. Was it Plow? Was the first one that you just like sold direct? Yeah. I thought that was super cool doing like the limited edition,
right?
Like ahead of its time, to a certain degree, right? Because now everyone does it now, but like the selling direct first of all, which is
right. That was my wife's idea to sell on Etsy because I had started doing these music, and I went. Actually, the first one was MRI. That I sold on Etsy, limited edition.
Right.
Even though Plow was the first stuff I did, I didn't release that till later.
Was that the one that like the art was an actual MRI, right? That was
because I went to have an MRI done, and they handed me the disc when I was leaving.
Yeah.
I was like, I got all excited.
Yeah.
Like, really?
That's great.
I can look at this? They're like, yeah, you can look at it. And it was like, 200 different slices.
Right.
So then my wife had the idea, and we had the printer that printed on CDs. So we came up with that and did 75.
Yeah, I just thought that was so cool of a way. Again, because we had entered into this all music available at all times kind of way. So how do you make it special? How do you make it interesting? Right. And the people that even care about physical media in any way, shape, or form, well, like they're going to want something that's unique and cool. And I just thought it was so smart, and like so in something that in actually doing it on Etsy is doubly funny, or not funny, but like notable.
It is funny, right?
It's a little funny.
I don't think I'm going to try to do. From now on, I guess I haven't done one in quite a while, but I keep saying I'm going to move to Bandcamp for merch, which I have to do. I'm super lazy about the whole thing.
It's a lot of work, man. I mean, although I will say Bandcamp they haven't ruined it yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
They haven't ruined it yet, and that's.
And I talked to a lot of people about physical on Bandcamp, and they all say, yeah, it's great, it's fine.
Can I say, save my ass during the COVID?
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it kept the lights on for at least a couple of those Bandcamp Fridays. And if nothing else, because it got people thinking about music. At least one day a month, people thought about music, and they thought, maybe we should kind of support the things I love. I didn't think about that.
Right.
And I don't know if that's kind of like a moment that has passed or will continue to move on, but that's never bad in my book. You know what I mean?
And it's funny with Bandcamp, that's where I go now. If I hear about a band, I immediately just go to Bandcamp and try to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you dig it and you buy it, the artist is actually going to see some money from it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Especially these micro pennies that the streamers do.
Right.
So where did you get the? Because it's one thing to make the records, or I should say make CDs, make the music, right? But where did you get the idea to do shows man alone?
Well, I kind of didn't. What happened was the guy from Young Widows. Mm-hmm. I'm having Evan.
Evan's great. He's
Evan Patterson.
Have you heard his
Contact
JJL? Have you heard that?
Yeah, I like them. I opened for them actually.
Oh, okay.
A while back. But
have you heard of him?
He wrote me and said, "Oh, will you open for Young Widows?" And I wrote him back. I'm going, "Do you even know what I do? I don't what?" And he goes, "Yeah, I know. You play guitar." So then I got it together, and that was my first gig. So he kind of brought me out. And then from then, I just kept doing gigs. I'd love to do something with him musically. And we kind of talk about it, but we haven't done anything yet.
He's an interesting cat, man. And he's that JJL stuff's interesting. Like it's sort of like it It's not what I expected, but in a good way.
No. I think I still love the first one. He sent that to me, and I was like, wow, this is very different. I think he's doing Young Widows again. I think the three of them are going out.
They're both doing stuff. I missed the JJL, so they went out with my buddies in Kowloon Walled City, and I completely missed it because I was recording a record at the time, and I'm kind of bummed about that. Not about recording the record, but seeing it live.
Oh, missing. Yeah, well, that happens.
It's a long life. Hopefully there'll be other ones.
Yeah.
All right, so when you're making the solo stuff, right? Is the idea just like let's explore these sounds? Because again, there's.
I mean, I do it at home,
right?
And sometimes it's like, oh, I have this weird ass guitar. Let me plug it in and see what happens.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, I just play and I record everything I play because I'm at home. If it's happening, I have it. If it's not happening, I have a lot of stuff that's not happening on my hard drive. Right. And it's like I listen to it again. I just go, yeah, it's not doing anything for me. Or maybe I can do something with it at another point, but it doesn't excite me. So the stuff that I put out is stuff that I am excited about.
Sure. And because if you're not excited about it, how can you expect anyone else to be, right?
That's true. That's the way it works. Or I might even come up with like a sleeve concept that I want to do. And then I have to add music. So
you do kind of backwards.
I start playing and go, oh, like I wanted to do a lino cut. That's what I did for one of them, Not October. I want to do a lino cut. But I need music. So then I figured out what the CD would be.
I'll confess, before Hazelmeyer did them, I never knew what and then it's like it's the easiest thing. It's like a woodcut but with linoleum. Okay.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I thought it was something real fancy. They make
this other medium. It's not even linoleum. It's like this rubberized stuff.
Yeah,
it's even easier. That's what I do.
Right. It's easier to carve out. Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Oh, super easy. Yeah.
So while this is going on,
other labels are contacting me. I never reached out to her. So Lawrence from Room 40 somehow found out about me, I think through Jamie Juju.
Oh, and Jamie's great. I had Jamie said, on a couple months ago.
Yeah, you should listen to this stuff. So Lawrence reached out to me. Remo Seelan from Hallow Ground somehow saw some of my stuff. I think he does a lot. He has Lawrence master a lot of his stuff. So I released stuff on Hallow Ground as well. And Vincent in Wisconsin, Secret Records.
Yes, Secret Records.
I do stuff with him. Yeah.
Zebras, man. He's I know.
All right. He just did a post about he doesn't see himself standing in front of a Marshall screaming anymore. If you saw
I
that
saw
post.
that. Yeah. I get it. I think about that every time I move the cabinets.
Yeah.
Depending on the night,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when to me it feels like the 2010s Swan stuff was like a continuation, right? It wasn't like a reunion so much as just like kind of picking up where that band left off.
Doing some of the old stuff, but to me it wasn't as it didn't feel particularly good.
Right.
Doing the older songs, and then it just started becoming all the new songs, and that felt right. But yes, it just did continue. It didn't it wasn't a reunion. It wasn't, Swans plays Top in its entirety.
Right, exactly.
Really? How would that even work? I couldn't do it.
You say you want that, but you're it's like Civil War reenactments or something at that point, right? I mean, no one's in the same place. Well, no one's in the same place, period. But no one is in the same place mentally or creatively at the same time, too. And
absolutely, yeah.
It would be disingenuous for music that is so deeply, frighteningly authentic to come from an inauthentic place. It would be a
it's
betrayal,
not just songs;
right?
It's a whole. This is how you felt at that time, and this is what it sounded like.
Right. So what's interesting to me is that like it feels like you're able to get the vibe of like the intensity, but kind of manifesting in a different way.
Right.
And I mean, I didn't have it on my bingo card. You know what I mean? Like it came in really unexpected to me. But was it something where it was like a slow ramp up for it, or was it kind of like did it all kind of come together very quickly?
I think it was a funny thing. I've been talking to Michael. My wife and I, we went to go see him do a solo show.
Yeah.
And I think he got the impression it's like I'm not angry at him or anything like that. And then what happened? Our little daughter was born, and then my job stopped. I worked at Bear Stearns, and it closed, and I wasn't doing anything. So I called up Michael, and I said, hey, I think I was calling up because I found an old check that I had managed to tear in half accidentally. So I called him up and said, hey, I got this check that I tore up accidentally. Will you send me another one? Is that a possibility?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, of course. And I said, oh, if you're thinking of doing anything, let me know if you want me to play. I'd be more than happy to play.
Right.
And it wasn't long after that, he really pitched it. Said, yeah, I want to do this thing. I have some people. And are you in?
Yeah, and it's. I mean, I think because originally he was thinking to do like, Angel of Light and Swans like as a split or something along those lines. I kind of like.
Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's interesting that like, but then also, and this happens when bands kind of continue. It happened with Wire, right? That like there's people that never got to see those classic eras. And then like, oh, okay, well, now they're here and they're doing this other stuff now. That's
an interesting thing because a lot of people, like even the tour that's going on now with Swans, I see a lot of comments. It's the first time I've ever seen them.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, I don't know. Are you really seeing them, though? I mean, that's how I feel about people going to see the Stones now. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
You're seeing the Stones? No, you're not.
Yeah.
It's not the Stones. Come on.
You're seeing the Mick and Keith show is what you're seeing.
Yeah.
The review.
Although I have to say, I opened for all those Swan shows last year.
Yeah.
And they were great. I mean, I was really super entertained by it.
Did you? So, and again, you opened those shows, but you did not, in fact, play in the band, right?
No, I just opened.
So
I had all the benefits of being on a Swans tour without being in the band. It felt a little weird sometimes.
Yeah, it has to be, right? Because it's all
you miss it.
Is it like seeing your ex with somebody?
Sidelined. Well, kind of, or you're sidelined. But then, the ex thing, it's like, then you think about it for a minute. You go, oh, yeah, that's cool. Good luck. Have fun. Yeah, we're back to that head patting thing. Yeah, you have fun.
Yeah. You're doing great job.
Yes, great job.
But then it's also you have an audience of people that you're playing for that are, I would hope,
theoretically only the older school guys, because most of the audience, this is the first time they've ever seen Swans. So the only person they know is Michael.
Right.
And the only Swans they know are the ones they see on stage. They don't realize that, oh, this guy's standing next to me falling asleep, spilling his beer on himself. Oh, that's the guy that used to be in it back in the 80s. Wow.
Yeah. They don't necessarily have the pop-up video sort of reporting.
Right.
Sure.
And no, thankfully I didn't have to come out and do a song or anything.
Yeah. So was that something that you talked about beforehand of just like, it's none. No,
it was. I think I was on Michael's same wavelength. It's like, that's not going to be happening.
Yeah, come out and do Louie or something, right?
Or some old weird Swan song.
Yeah, I mean that would
be the. What's the Louie of Swans? I don't
What's
know.
a Louie of Swans? I don't know. Good question. That would. That's a good. That is a really good question.
Yeah.
I'll have to get back to you on that one because I can't think of it. I think it's a good thing that I can't think of a Louie for Swans personally. I would consider that a massive compliment.
Louie? You can think of Louie for a lot of bands, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even ones you wouldn't. I mean, I guess it would be for the birthday party. Release the Bats, maybe because it's like that's like kind of the silly kind of Mershy one. You know, like I don't know.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
This would be a good tour game. I'm gonna back.
Yes, it would be a good tour game.
But the shows are good. The shows are fulfilling. The shows are interesting, for the most part. Then.
Oh yeah, it was fun. Thank Michael for having me on all of them because originally I was just going to do the first European tour, and then it's like, do them all. Do England, do the U.S., and do the next European tour. So I was busy all year. Yeah,
I mean, because that's one of the reasons why it took so bloody long to have you on the show. Is it seemed like there was no point that you and I were both around at the same time because you were so busy. And I was happy for you because I lucky enough to see one of the sets. I thought it was fantastic. It was a great seated.
Where was that at?
That was in Pittsburgh. Well, and I saw you at Juno 44 too, upstairs in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
I didn't actually say hi though. No. I dropped in like a sneak attack. Saw your set, saw Juno 44 set, bailed immediately, and saw my friends in chat pile across town. And I actually missed their set because I hung out with those yet. So I was.
Oh boy.
And I was in town for like non-rock and roll related stuff too. So I was like, look, if I can fit in one of these, I'll feel pretty good. If I can fit in both, I'll be a superhero.
That was weird set.
I didn't get to say hi.
I was the music in between the Desdemonas and Juno 44. So that was the whole plan, is I would play before Desdemonas and in between the two bands. And then they were saying, don't even play after. Just play in between. In between. And people almost, I feel like, and you were in the corner, and it was like kind of like not super well lit upstairs. I was up in the balcony. Yeah. On the balcony. So if you're on the first floor, you don't even know, like it could be someone. What's going on? Yeah, right. Exactly. And I thought it was, first of all, funny. Secondly, like kind of a cool social experiment. And then I also thought, I thought it was a good set. I did not, in fact, get to say hello though. That's my only regret. But that was. I was wondering if that was like a planned experiment that way, or if that just sort of is how it worked. It was. They set it up that way. I was the end of my solo tour, driving around the East Coast, all the way down to Miami. 11 shows. I think I did them all like 11 days. Like there was some long drives, but that was fine. And those were the last two shows, DC and Philly. Right. In DC, I played next to them. There was like this weird like pedestal on the side of the stage that I set up on. That's awesome. And people were just baffled. They're like, what's happening we don't play. Wow. When did they get a keyboard player? That was weird. But it was fun. Nice. I was glad I got to see it. I was not glad that I didn't get to say hi, but again, I was trying to fit in a lot of rock and roll activity for a night that I probably shouldn't have been out at all, but I managed to fit it all in. So, so what's up for the future? Any more of these solo tours coming up, or you can kind of chill it for a bit? Talking to, always trying to do something. I did a experimental theater piece called Night Keeper. Okay. And we did it for a week. I played my music on top of it's a solo voice play. She walks around and tells a story. And we recorded that in the studio. And I'm talking about he wants to take it out on the road somehow. Oh. So we'll see. Like a stripped down version of it. Yeah. We're like maybe like a smaller production, but still have but a similar idea. So it would be just a floor without like a stand, people sitting basically. Sounds very transgressive. They're just part of it.
Yeah.
It's cool. It was fun. So that's happening. Some other things, like some action is happening at Room 40. So we'll try to get some more music going there.
Nice.
And we'll see what happens on the next Swans iteration. Whether I'm back or not, we'll see.
So that is a possibility.
A little teaser. Yeah, maybe.
All right.
We'll see.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's always, you know what? I've learned never say never. You know, you always say, oh, I'll never do this. And next thing you know,
there it is. You're doing it.
yeah.
Norm, I love it. I'm glad we finally got to do this. Thank you so much for doing it with me.
Yeah.
It took entirely too long for me to pull it off, and my apologies for that on my side. The last thing that I ever ask folks is the only canned question that I ever ask people, and you can choose to interpret it however you like, but why do you do what you do?
That's a tough one now that I'm getting older too. I mean, I think I do what I do, I have no choice. I think it's just the way it is. It's almost not even intentional. I just always loved music, but always felt I wasn't really that good at it. But I've always loved it, and I want to play, and it's just what I do. I think I try to play the way I am. I think what you hear when I'm playing, that's me. I'm not trying to be somebody. That's me. So maybe I'm trying to let people meet me because maybe I'm a little bashful.
Right.
But I'm not really sure about that either. I have no choice to do what I do. And I've already done it. It's not like, I guess I'll continue doing it, but I've already done it.
Well, I, for one, love that you do. And I
you,
appreciate you. And I hope I see you down the line sooner rather than later, Norm.
Oh, you will. When are you going to come to New York? Play some shows.
Maybe sooner than you think, but maybe not.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see. Magic 8 Ball says ask again later. I know. We were there. We were there in May at Vitus, and it was a great show. And I was reminded by others that why don't you come out here more? I'm like, I don't know. It's a good idea. We'll do that. We'll take it under advisement. No, I will let you know for sure if so, because I would like to be doing that more. So
yeah, there's a lot of places to play. I think in New York, Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, where they all are now.
I feel like it's a really good time for venues and around there, which is it wasn't for a very long time, but I feel like it is really good now.
Yeah, it's really picked up a lot. Great venues too; they're really nice.
Thanks so much, sir.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Conan. I'll talk to you again.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
There goes Norm Westberg. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll gonna throw on a tune or two. I've been thinking about this. What's the Swans Louie? And I still don't know. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. But that said, you can find all Norm's music, all the stuff on Bandcamp. You can find it, some of it on Etsy, actually, which is great. Let's see. What am I gonna go on? Let's do. What would be the Louie for Swans? Boy, I'm just having a hard time. I'm having a hard time thinking of what it would be. Yeah, let's do Holy Money. How about that?
Keep your head on the
So there you go. I'd like to thank Norm Westberg, for being my guest for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please go check out all his stuff at normanwestberg.com. He's got a Norman Westberg Bandcamp. I think it's like Norman Westberg 1, if I remember correctly, that has not everything but a lot of his stuff, which is great. That's on there if you want to check that out. Maybe coming near you, maybe not. Only the future will tell. I tell you what, glad we got that done. I didn't think it was going to get done in time for this tour, and we did. So, name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so very much for listening to it. This show airs, normally, Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming live, YouTube and Twitch. And podcasted later. Always free, no ads, no sponsors. No kidding. If you like the show and you want to get episodes sooner, you can achieve that at protonicreversal.com. And then patreon.com/protonicreversal, $1 a month will achieve the goal of getting the episode sooner and help support this show and me specifically. So thank you so much for that. Thanks, folks, for sharing the episode around, liking, subscribing to your platform of choice, all that good stuff. It helps people discover the show, and it's just a darn nice thing to do. Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends dates with McCluskey, LA and San Francisco, Costa Mesa, Bakersfield. So come out if you're in those cities on the West Coast. It's going to be great. It'd be great to see you, talk about the show, etc., etc. Some good stuff coming up. Not in the next week and a half, though. I'm totally burnt out. But stay tuned. And stay safe out there.
Can you hear me now?
And check you later.
Out on Route 128, you're dark and lonely. You got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,